Are we on? Oh shit, there's live, huh?
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Veggie Power Daily Podcast. And today we got a special guest today. We got Daniel Figuera. Is that how you pronounce it?
It's Figaro.
Okay. I don't know if I'm butchering the name, man.
That's funny. It's all good, dude. It's all good.
Yeah, man. So, dude, I'm really excited today, man. We're going to talk about more of old school bodybuilding tips that you can use to build the physique of your dreams. And we're going to cover a lot of cool stuff in this podcast. And I'm really excited to have you in here, man. How's it going, dude?
Yeah, it's going good, dude. It's going good. How about you?
It's going good, man. It's going good. I'm here with you talking about lifting, and that's the best way to spend my Saturday night, man.
Oh yeah, I love lifting.
Yeah, man. So you want to talk about a little bit about yourself? You know, like how long you've been lifting, just a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, sure. So I started lifting back in high school. It was like the summer of 2013. I got into football. We trained like it was like I think it might have been an upper lower body split spaced over 3 times a week, or it was full body. I can't remember. Then I got into about a year or two later, or that same year, I actually got into a bodybuilding split where I was just doing I was doing who knows what training. I was like training probably shoulders one day, and then I was working out every day, and it was just kind of like a mix of everything. And then about a year later, the year I was graduating high school, it got a little bit more structured. And then I started to following Arnold's program. Arnold's chest, back. I don't know if you ever seen like Arnold's program. It's the blueprint on bodybuilding.com. Have you seen that?
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah. That's what I did for like a year, and then after that, it became even more structured. I started to do I started buying programs from like people on Instagram. I started buying people. The first program I ever bought was from a guy on Instagram named Anthony Narcisio. He's supposedly natty, but the dude's like super jacked. He must just have good genetics, but he's really jacked. And he gave me like a split, and then I took another split. And then it wasn't until 2017 where I did a full body routine, and that's what probably got me the most results. So I've been lifting a total of 5 years now. 5 years.
Cool, man.
Yeah, it's been interesting because at first, I remember when I wanted to give up training forever because I was thinking about how long it would take me to actually gain muscle. Like it was that same year, 2014, where I was like, damn, it's I imagined myself 5 years later. I was like bigger, but I was like, damn, 5 years is a long time. I was like, do I really want to wait? So then I gave up lifting for a month. And then I was like, it was kind of sad. I got discouraged. And then after that month, I thought about it. I was like, okay, you're going to make the decision. You're either going to keep lifting or you're just going to quit forever. So I thought about it. I was like, okay, I'll get back into it. So I got back into it, and it was so hard to get back into it because what's the longest time you've ever taken off from lifting?
Dude, I suffer from an injury when I was in my senior year of high school, man. I was broken, dude. This was in high school, junior and senior year was when I lost the most amount of weight and got really lean. So that's when I started focusing on muscle building. Yeah. And dude, in the peak of my bulk, that's when I got injured. So I was really disappointed, man. I was just starting to put up good numbers, and it really just kind of hurt my spirit, man, for a long time. You know,
I feel
when you're so passionate about something and something out of your control kind of hits you, that's really tough, man. So
what kind of injury was it?
It was more of a lower back injury, man. It's 100% my fault, but
what happened though? What was it?
It was more like a deadlift injury. I was rounding my back a bit when I was deadlifting. I should have it's partially our high school's teacher's fault, and 90% my fault too, because I'm the one who's doing that. Yeah, man. So you took a month off lifting?
Oh yeah, I took a month off lifting, and then came back, and then after that month, I never stopped lifting. It just it went on forever. I didn't think I'd be doing this. I didn't think I'd be doing it this long. I don't know. It seems kind of like damn. lifting weights for like years, dude. Isn't that kind of crazy? It's weird.
Dude, I felt the same way, man, because I first started lifting in our high school's weightlifting gym, sophomore year of high school. And then, dude, when I was there, I thought it was the boringest thing ever. Like, why do people
Yeah.
lift weights? It doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense. Like, there's people playing dodgeball, they're playing soccer. Like, you
Yeah.
just, because, dude, I
Just
thought it was
fucking tough and
hilarious.
iron, dude.
Yeah, man.
That's
It's funny because now we do this for a living now.
Pretty much, huh? Yeah. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, man, dude, I'm really excited to talk about. And you're really into old school bodybuilding, right? So what made you get into that? I'm curious.
It was actually that's yeah. How did I get into that? I remember I was like what? I think it might have been like 12, 14 years old, and it was the first time I ever passed by a GNC, and I saw a bit. This is so cliche because you know, like it's like everybody saw that picture of Arnold. It was Arnold doing what do you call it? It was
It's like double bicep.
Nah, it wasn't. I don't know if it was a double bicep, but I mean, I forgot what it was, but it was just a poster of Arnold outside the GNC, and I was like, damn, Arnold, man. I was like, that's Arnold Schwarzenegger. I was like, damn, that's pretty awesome. I was like, it'd be pretty cool to look like that someday. And I don't know. That's kind of what kind of like got me the thought into lifting, but I never actually took action. But what actually got me into lifting was it was a girl, dude.
Oh,
it was
really?
Like, yeah. Like this girl dumped me, and then I had like really low self-esteem after that, and then I felt like I needed like an outlet. So it was weird. Like in the middle of the night, I just my brother had found all these weights in our backyard, and he gathered them up, and then he started weightlifting first, and he left the weights in the living room, and then for some reason I woke up in the middle of the night, and I was like, I just needed like an outlet. It was weird because I felt like the weights were calling me. So then I went to the weights. I did like a couple of sets, a couple of reps, and then I got a pump. It was weird. It was cool. And then I put the weight down, went to sleep, and woke up sore the next day. And I was like, wow, my muscles feel big. They feel sore. I like this feeling. And then from then on, that's kind of how I got into lifting.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome, dude. So it was really Arnold Schwarzenegger and the like personal issues that you had going on that really drove you into fitness. That's pretty awesome, man. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Dude, so I think we should start at the top though. Like, so you became an expert at old school bodybuilding and building a physique, and you competed before, right, in bodybuilding. So I just want to make sure the viewers know that you're the real deal, you know.
Yeah, so I have a YouTube channel with it's growing. I started it last year. It's got it's got almost 3,000 subs, and I started last year. So we're growing pretty fast. And yeah, I have read a lot of old school bodybuilding books, and I have competed, but I've never competed in bodybuilding though. I've done men's physique, but I mean, I definitely plan to compete in the next year or so in classic physique in a natural bodybuilding competition.
Gotcha, man. That's pretty cool, man. So let's talk about what are the top 3 muscle groups. So let's say that a person's listening to this, right? They want to build the physique that they really admire, but at the same time, they don't want to build that average gym bro kind of physique where they have the gigantic chest, a lagging bicep, basically no rear delts. They have small calves, but they have huge thighs. Like I feel like a lot of the lifting advice, it's not based towards proportions. It's not towards symmetry. There's no leanness.
I agree.
It's more of like let's put on as much mat. Let's take a guy from 160 and let's get him to 190, even if that means gain just a bunch of random muscle in random places. And it's not really methodical is what I'm trying to say, you know, like they're trying to add mass, but it's not strategic, you know what I mean? Like I've seen a lot of guys around where I'm at, but they look completely different because most of their size are in their glutes, are in their thighs and their neck, and it's not really methodical. So how can someone listening, like what muscle group should someone develop to really build an aesthetic physique? What do you think, Daniel?
So it starts off with symmetry. I remember there's a bodybuilder named Larry Scott, and he gave some advice to Frank Zane, and the advice was work the peripheral muscles. The peripheral muscles are the shoulders, the waistline, the calves, and the lats. So just alone, when you work, like have you ever seen like Men Fitness magazines? They're like, oh, get that V shape. The first thing they talk about is the back. And the second thing they go to is the broad shoulders. And if you just work the lats and the shoulders, you're already going to get that V taper look, that illusion that you have a smaller waist, and that's how you get the V taper. So along with that, you also got to work the calves, and that's pretty much it. You just got to work the calves, the lats, the shoulders, and the waistline. That's pretty much it. And that's how you kind of get that symmetrical old school look, having the big calves, the wide lats, the wide shoulders, and the small waistline.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about how to build up each of these muscle groups, so then the person listening can be like, oh, so let's take it back a step. So how can a natural weightlifter build the most amount of muscle, right? Because we know that most of the fitness industry right now is enhanced, right? They lose a lot of performance enhancement drugs. There's a lot of things going on. There's a whole SARMs thing going on. And how can a natural weightlifter build the most amount of muscle strategically? What do you think are some strategies that?
Yeah, I think full body is pretty good, because a lot of the guys from the 1950s and below, they all built their body. They built massive bodies. You got guys like George Eiferman, Reg Park, and Steve Reeves who built their bodies only off of a full body routine. And the most time I've ever gained the most mass I've ever gained ever was from a full body routine. It was like 2017 when I decided to actually do a full body routine. The first couple months that I did it, it was like 3 to 6 months. I gained like about 20 to 25 pounds. So it was a lot of weight pretty fast. And I got strong too. Yeah. All my sizes went up. It was so crazy. Like my calves got big, my arms got big, everything just got big. It was just insane. I think full body's the way to go. But then you could also do upper body, lower body. It's pretty good too. But the one I've never tried, but I heard is pretty good, is the push-pull leg split.
Yeah. There's two different variations you can do push-pull legs. You can do push-pull legs the full body style, where you only do push-pull legs only 3 days a week. That's more of the high intensity, low volume approach. Or you can do the full-blown the push-pull legs 6 days a week, where you do legs push-pull and then legs push-pull. But I prefer the low intensity version. I found that I make better strength gains with the lower volume push-pull legs with the 3-day split.
Gotcha.
Yeah, man. So we know that full body splits work, right? It's been time tested over and over again. All the old school lifters use it. So how can someone structure a full body training program? Like, what would be? You don't have to like lay it all out for you. I'm sure I'll go ahead and put your YouTube channel in the link below so they can check you out. But what would an example of a workout look like? Like, if I was someone who's a noob, right? Let's pretend I'm a noob. I'm just starting out. What would an example of a full body workout look like that day? Like, if I was going to the gym, I just took my pre-workout, what am I going to do today?
Gotcha. So to the person I would give advice to if they want to start training full body, is just 3 sets of muscle group, 3 sets, for chest, back, triceps, biceps, shoulders, legs, and lower back and calves. But some people would rather not to add calves in there, just because they're like lazy, or they feel like, oh, if I do squats, they'll hit them enough. But I mean, if you want to build something proportional and symmetrical, you're definitely going to want to have some calves in there. So 3 sets for pretty much everything. With anything like a 6 to 12 rep range would probably be optimal.
Perfect. Yeah. That's exactly what I recommend to my clients too, man. I actually recommend a slightly higher intensity, like 5 to 10, depending on the exercise. Most of the time it's 6 to 12 though. Yeah. For most of the compound exercises. And for example, one thing I've always had a question about full body, because I used to follow full body when I was way back in high school when I was a beginner, but the only thing that I feel a little bit concerned about is, like, let's say I go and do bench, right? The exercise I do after that, it's going to feel a little bit weaker. Is there a way that you combat this, or do you structure your full body workouts in a way where each session has different exercises, or do you do like a form of periodization in order to combat that, or anything like that?
Wait, what do you mean?
Like, if I go do bench press on Monday, right?
Yeah.
And then I do squats after, like my squat is going to be a little bit weaker, right? Is there a way that you like, do you switch the order of the exercises each time you do full body, or do you do any tweaks, or do you just kind of just do it?
Honestly, I mean, there's only two variations I've ever done or a couple of variations. Like sometimes I'll start off with shoulders, chest, back, or legs. But I mean, it's just kind of like I'll usually follow one structure for a while, and then I'll switch to another, and then I'll switch to another. So sometimes I'll like the last time I ever trained full body, I would start off with like legs. So I would do some squats, some remain deads, calf raises, and then I would start with the upper body. And then before I would follow Steve Reeves variation where it was shoulders and then ending with legs. So it would be shoulders, chest, back, shoulders, shoulders, chest, back, arms, and then legs. And then sometimes I would follow Arnold's variation, which was starting off with chest, doing back, shoulders, arms, and then finishing with legs.
That's what I used to do. That's what I did. Yeah, I always started with chest, no matter what the full body
Nice. Yeah.
workout was.
Nice.
Yeah, man. So, what do you think are some good exercises that people can do? Like, what are some great exercise variations that people can incorporate? You know?
I think compounds are king. Honestly, if you want to build mass quickly, just do compounds. You got the bench press. Hits the chest, it hits the triceps, hits the shoulders. You can either do lat chin up. Honestly, I think body weight exercises are really good for mass building. You got the dips. Yeah,
they're amazing, man. Like I'm really into that. Like ever since I started doing weighted chins and pulls, man, my back has exploded. Like even more so than doing pull downs.
Yeah, just recently, because I hired a coach named Tyler, and he gave me a program that focused on the first exercise on there was just chins, and I was like, why is he choosing pull down? Why is he choosing chins over pull downs? And then soon later after I realized, I was like, damn, I was like, chins are king, honestly. And then actually a client just messaged me today. He's like, yeah, dude, the program you gave me was, I got really good results from it. And he's like, and I got really good, my back got great results because I was just focusing on doing body weight chins. So he got really, really good results. So that just means that, body weight exercises are king. Like you got the dips, you got the chin ups. You get really good at those are like your main mass builders.
Exactly, man. Exactly. Yeah. If somebody had only access to 3 exercises, I would honestly say trap bar, deadlift, dips, chins, and just do squats, and they can build a solid base.
Yeah,
base from just doing just those 4 movements. I feel like nowadays people try to copy what the elite are doing, like the 1% of people, like people with the amazing genetics, and they try to copy those people. And they wonder why they're not getting the same results, because those 1%, they don't have the same recovery capabilities. They might be enhanced, they may not be. We never know for sure, And I think the whole like bro splits were introduced. They were kind of made for people who are enhanced, don't you think?
That I think they're made for people who are enhanced, and on top of that, people who I think the only people the people that can get the great good results are the ones who have the have good genetics. They got if they have beast genetics, I think they can grow off any routine. Whereas the guy who has the kind of okay, he's got okay genetics, they're not that great, probably won't benefit as great as the guy who's enhanced or has good genetics on the bro split.
Exactly, man. That's very true. That's very true.
Yeah.
I feel like every lifter has once always started off with a bro split.
Bro split, yeah. It's pretty traditional to start off with a bro split, but I start off with a bro split, and then I soon realized, because I kept taking advice from guys who weren't natty, and they kept, and they kept giving me these bro splits, and I was like, damn, I keep getting ripped, but I'm not getting big, and I'm not what's the issue? And it wasn't until I found Leroy Colbert, the old school bodybuilder on YouTube. He started talking about full body routines, and I was like, there's no way someone can grow off 3 days a week, full body, doing basic exercises. I was like, there's no way, until I did it. And then I was like, okay, this is the way to go.
Exactly, dude. I have a similar experience as well, man. I got tired of the bro splits, because for me, at least you got ripped from bro splits. I literally got nothing, man. I just left with the pump and went home. And I was, yeah, dude, I was super disappointed, man, because I wasn't seeing the gains I wanted until I picked up this book called Beyond Brawn. It's an old school weightlifting book from the 90s, and it's actually really similar. He introduced me to this idea of abbreviated training programs, like focusing more on not just gym attendance as a way to measure progress, but rather the strength gain in like a certain rep range to build the physique, and what exercises to focus on to build a great physique. And that book really got me into doing weighted chins, trap bar deadlifts, dips, incline bench, all the exercises that build an aesthetic physique. And one other topic I wanted to talk about is chest size, man. I feel like a lot of people get carried away with to add so much mass to their lower chest, and that kind of takes away the proportion from the upper chest. Do you have certain exercises that you recommend people use for the upper chest? And then I'll recommend my other two exercises I have in mind too.
For sure, yeah. So the main exercise I would recommend for getting the some mass in the upper chest is just your basic incline bench, barbell. You can also do the incline dumbbell press, which is a favorite of Steve Reeves. That back then nobody really did any incline pressing. They did a lot of bench pressing. They did a lot of dips, flies, decline flies, but they never did any upper chest training. And it wasn't until Steve Reeves came around, and he was the first to develop that real square chest look, with that nice upper chest. And then everybody started asking him, like, how did he do it? And he basically just told him, I just do a lot of incline. I do incline barbell, but a favorite of his was the incline dumbbell press. And I think I personally think the incline dumbbell press is, if anything, I think dumbbells in general are superior to barbells because you can get a better range of motion and there's a better squeeze at the top. But yeah, so it would be incline dumbbell press, incline barbell press, incline flies are okay. Yeah. And there's also another variation that I found out from Frank Zane and Vince Durana too. I know Frank Zane does it. The Vince Durana variation of the incline dumbbell press is, instead of doing a regular, I think it's a pronated grip, you do a neutral grip. So it's kind of like yeah, like that. It would be up and down like that. Yeah, it'd be up and down like that. But that's Vince Durana's variation of doing the incline press, because he thinks the other way is mostly front deltoid. So he came up with his way to do it in a neutral grip, and that way there's a greater range of motion and there's a better squeeze. But I mean, when I do it that way, it kind of hits the triceps, but it's not too bad. But that's also a variation that Frank Zane followed as well, and it's also a lot safer because if you have a shoulder injury, that's one way to work around it. So you can not only can you hit your upper chest pretty good, you can hit it very safely as well.
Yeah, man, I completely agree with that, dude. And the part where you said the hammer grip, I actually do an exercise very similar to that. It's called the landmine press. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I've heard of it, yeah.
Yeah. It's basically what you're just describing, but instead of doing it with the dumbbell, you're basically doing it with the barbell. So you're gripping one hand on top of the other like that, and you're kind of pressing it out.
Yeah, I've seen that before, actually. I've seen people do it with that, I don't know if you've ever seen it, like people do it with that V-bar grip. They put a V-bar grip under the bar in the Smith machine.
Yeah, you could do it with that too. I just do it with the top end of the bar, and I just grip it, and it really hits the upper chest pretty hard. And yeah, man, incline presses are the way to go. Like I can't remember the last time I was doing any kind of flat pressing. Most of my training just consists of, for people who are interested in purely aesthetics, more appearance first. Yeah. And I just recommend incline pressing, whether that's dumbbells, barbells, and then follow that up with weighted dips or body weight dips. I think you'll build like a beautiful chest that way. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. A lot of the training I recommend to my clients is just like, especially if they're mostly interested in the aesthetic chest, like that old school bodybuilding look, is that just dips and incline pressing, because while the I mean, there is science that says that there's no such thing as like the outer pectoral. You can't work the inner chest. I mean, well, that's true. But the only way I found out how to build my own classic physique was learning that way. Like I learned it from, that's how Arnold talked about it. Vince Durana, the Iron Guru, Frank Zane. I mean, any old school bodybuilder, they always talked about like, oh, You know, you got to do the dips for the outer chest. You got to do the incline press for the upper chest. And like, that's just the only way to do it. I just recommend some dips for the outer chest to get that wide look, to get those pecs that almost touch your biceps. And then you got to do the incline pressing to get that square chest look.
That's exactly true, man. I feel like a lot of times people get too carried away with the research, which is not a bad thing, you know. Like you always want to use science as like a baseline, but you should always fill that in with your own experiences and find the middle ground where you find something that works for you, you know. I feel like people forget that sometimes, you know. They're like, oh, where's the study for that? You know, like there's not a study for everything, you know. Sometimes it's just more based on what's working for you, what's your experience, you know.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, man, definitely, for sure. So we know that. So far we showed you guys how to build an amazing chest, right? Through incline presses, landmine presses, dips, and we showed you guys the shoulder to waist ratio. We told you guys that's the most important thing. So let's talk a little bit more about the shoulder to waist ratio and why that's so aesthetic, you know?
Yeah. So the shoulder to waist ratio is so aesthetic because you got that tiny waist and you just kind of got that wide body. So if you're just wearing like a regular pair of jeans and you got like a sweater on, the first thing people are gonna notice is your shoulders.
Yeah,
they're gonna be like, okay, this guy's got wide shoulders and he's got that small waist, and then he's got that, and then you turn around, and then he's like, okay, now this guy's got that chest popping out of his sweater. So that's so important because it's what really gives you that first illusion that someone actually lifts. Having like the first thing you notice, like you don't look at somebody's legs and you're like, okay, this guy lifts. You're kind of like, okay, this guy's got some nice shoulders. He's got a nice broad upper body.
Not really noticing the neck. Not really noticing the neck, right?
yeah, not really noticing that. But that's really important when it comes to building the classic physique, is just the lats, because I think the back is the most important when it comes to when having that shoulder waist ratio, because it's just I don't know, there's something about a back that just kind of gives you that Herculean look, or like, oh, this guy looks like he lifts, or it just kind of gives you that nice broad look.
Yeah, it gives you that more wider look, you know, that you can't really achieve with other muscle groups. I think the second best thing out of after back is probably going to be the shoulders, and that's a muscle group that a lot of guys struggle with. And I get a lot of questions like, Andy, like, how do you build their shoulders and things like that? And I feel like most of the time their shoulders are lagging, because sometimes they're not even doing anything for their shoulders. It's just like one little exercise at the end. And I feel like if people just included more overhead pressing and lateral, and supplement that with lateral raises, some rear delt flies, they can build some great shoulders. And shoulders are a little bit tricky for us natural lifters, because because people that are enhanced, those are the areas that are highest in androgen receptor density. So once they're enhanced, they blow up. But for natural lifters, it's a bit trickier, you know?
Yeah.
Like from what I found from my experience is getting stronger at overhead pressing, whether that's seated dumbbell, one arm dumbbell standing press, or barbell standing press, that really blew my shoulders up rather than anything else I've done. Because what I used to think in the past is that my front delts are already being hit from the bench press, but I had to let go of that mentality and just started overhead pressing more.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I can't say that I've ever had well, you know what? I never really paid attention, but my shoulders grew really fast when I started working them really hard, because I remember one time I was reading Vince Strana's the Wild Physique book, and he was talking about, okay, so if you want to have classic shoulders, you got to make sure you have rear delts, because you know you can look good from the front, but if you turn to the side, he's gonna be, if you don't have any rear delts, you're gonna look like what Vince Strana calls a surfboard. So when I turned to the side and I saw that my rear delts were super small, I was like, dude, I got some big ass, you know, I got some nice like wide shoulders and some nice front deltoids, but I have no rear delts. So once I realized that, I started to just started hitting my shoulders hard. I started hitting with like high volume, maybe like good frequency, like twice a week. I wasn't following like any really natural program back then, but I think when I think just the amount of volume that my shoulder, it wasn't used to it, so they grew fast. I was doing like it was just weird. It was just crazy stuff. I was doing like 8 reps on the lateral raises, 8 reps on dumbbell press, 8 reps on rear delt flies, and then I did that for like 2 months, and my shoulders just blew up just from that. I think I just have good shoulder genetics, because even when I don't hit them, like now, because I don't give them as much volume as I did before, because I just know they grow really fast. So I don't want that to happen, because it ruins my proportions. Because okay, I got some big shoulders, but then they make my arms look really small, and then on top of that, they make my V taper look good, but they just make my arms look small, and it just kind of like, I don't want that. I want to have those big, because like you look at guys like Arnold. I'm looking at a poster of Arnold right now. Like if he's doing like a side arm flex, and if you look at his arm, he's got like his shoulders aren't super big. Like they're a nice size, but if anything, his biceps and his triceps are a lot bigger than his shoulders. But if anything, they're still in proportion. Whereas the guys nowadays, like they got this bit, like they just got massive shoulders, and they don't have arms and triceps to match with that. And that, I guess they don't really care about the proportions, but I think I'm just really buggy on those proportions, that I make sure that they all match.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, man. That's definitely a good way to put it. And most of these guys that have like the gigantic shoulders, they're usually enhanced. So I'm not saying all the time. I know some great naturals who build some great shoulders, but most of the time, if their shoulders are so out of proportion with the rest of their body, and they just look like cannonballs that are just pasted to your your upper arm, then most of the time they're enhanced.
Also, would you say that like heavy lifting on your shoulders is kind of like what gets into respond a lot better?
Yeah, definitely. Like what made my shoulders really blow up is getting stronger at overhead pressing, military pressing. I know a lot of old kids, you probably already know this, but a lot of old school lifters back in the day, they didn't use the bench press a lot. Like overhead press was king back in the day.
Yeah, they did.
They did a lot of overhead pressing. That's what really inspired me to get into that, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, man, overhead pressing, getting stronger at that, seated dumbbell pressing, getting stronger at that, and then switching back and forth when I hit a plateau, and then supplementing with some lateral raises with different rep ranges. Like you said, 6 sets of 6, 8 sets of 8. And I also started incorporating this thing called the rest pause sets. It's where you do a set of 12 to 20, take about 10 seconds, do a mini set right away of about 4 to 6, then do another mini set 4 to 6, and then do it up until 4 times. So each time you're taking it to failure, and then you're doing a couple other sets beyond that. And that's really helped more for the volume based muscle growth, and then along with the strength gains on the side, that really made the shoulders blow up. And for a long time, my rear delts were lagging up until I started incorporating more face pulls, more bent over flies, more. One machine I think that's really underrated. Well, it's probably not underrated anymore, but it's reverse machine flies. I love that machine, man.
Oh, is it the pec deck?
Yeah, it's a reverse pec deck machine. That machine is amazing, man. Especially if you're using this grip, where you're doing that. Nothing hits my rear delts like that. Like, I feel like that's a perfect machine for people who are lagging in the rear delt department, who don't do a lot of rows or anything. Yeah. Even if you do a lot of rows, I feel like that could be really beneficial for someone who wants more fuller delts. You know, they want the front, the side, and the back. Yeah, you know, to get that full proportion, man. So we talked about the upper chest, we talked about the back, we talked about the overall proportions, and now we're left with just the small waist. How can our listeners get the small waist? Is it from 50 sets of sit-ups, or
this is funny, because I made a video on Frank Zane's secrets to a small waistline, and like, you think people would be like grateful for like the information that I gave them, but everybody was like pissed. They were like, dude, like this is all rehashed, recycled information. I'm like, yeah, I know. And it sort of is, but it's just kind of like, okay, you're either born with a small waist or you're not, because it's all genetics. You know, some people are just wide at their hips.
Yeah.
And like me, I was just, I mean, I think you were just naturally born with a small waist too, weren't you, or no?
Dude, I actually was born with a small waist. Actually, even back when I was a little bit chubby, it's weird. My waist was still small but then I had fat everywhere. I naturally carry a lot of most of my body fat in my legs.
Nice.
I'm one of those people, yeah, that carries most of the body fat in my legs. But yeah, man, you're 100% right on that. Waist size is usually genetic, but like someone who's like 25% body fat can't blame genetics for their weight size, right? Like once they get to at least to 15, below 15, then they can say whether or not their waist size is genetic. Because I'm picturing someone who has a beer belly right now listen to this, you're like, oh shit, my waist is genetic, you know?
Yeah, no, yeah, it's definitely a build-up. But like, okay, if you're like drinking beer all the time, that's definitely gonna make your waist grow. If you're overindulging in like way too much food, that's gonna make your waist grow. So if anything, just keep your diet in check. Make sure you train hard. There's also the I don't. Have you ever heard of Armis Dolgan?
I've never heard of it. What is it?
He's an old school bodybuilder. He was kind of one of the guys that started to bring golden era bodybuilding back into the bodybuilding scene. And he was always talking about, okay, what he was doing what old school bodybuilders did, like golden era bodybuilders did. Like you got like guys like Serge Bray who would do 1,000 sit-ups a day, would take them about an hour to finish. You got guys like Frank Zane who would do Roman chairs, sit-ups on the bench for like about an hour. Tom Platz talked about how he went to the Gold's Gym for the first couple times, and he said he saw Frank Zane doing sit-ups on the bench. And then he's like, oh, okay. So he left for like an hour, came back, he was still doing sit-ups. So I think the secret to getting that small waistline for golden era bodybuilders back then was doing a lot of ab training. They did a lot of volume in ab training. They did Roman chairs. Yeah, even Arnold talked about, okay, Arnold said you need a minimum of 500 reps on the Roman chairs. So it was just a lot of Roman chairs, leg raises, hanging leg raises, bench leg raises. You got then you got some weird variations like the unorthodox Vince Gironda talked about, okay, you got a lot of these golden era bodybuilders doing the ab training. They do high volume, lots of reps, whereas Vince Gironda would talk about ab training. Ab training is just, you can do ab training just like how you train your arms, your legs. Just do 3 sets of 12, 3 sets of 15. You don't have to go high. You can even do 6 reps, as low as 6 reps too. What do you think about that? Do you think it's better to do high rep or kind of like low, or it doesn't really matter?
To be honest, man, I think of ab training as more of something that you, as an accessory work to keep your lower back healthy and to use once you're already lean. That's what I kind of use it as. Like, I get a lot of clients that think they can spot reduce by doing a lot of hanging leg raises and things like that. But really, I use primarily the diet to get lean. And once I'm already there, then supplement with a lot of this stuff like you're talking about, hanging leg raises, sit-ups, just to really get more thicker abs, get more definition in there. But that's generally what I recommend. But I totally agree with you when you said doing high volume hanging leg raises, man, and more core work, because it definitely can't hurt, because in every single exercise you're using your core, right? And doing a lot more core work can definitely help supplement that and help you get stronger. Like, for example, when you're doing an overhead press, that's an exercise that requires all core. You really got to keep the core tight, and doing all this accessory work for your core can really help keep your lower back healthy and help with a lot of your pressing movements.
Yeah, same thing with the squat. The squat involves a lot of abs too. Sometimes you can just do like heavy ass squats, and then the next day your core will be like super sore.
That's very true, man. I used to feel that. That back in the day. I haven't been squatting lately though. Like my torture for legs has been due to Bulgarian split squats lately.
Oh yeah, those are tough, dude. Those are tough.
Yeah, because one area I've been trying to really develop is I don't really care about adding too much leg size, but the one area I want to add is the VMO, like the teardrop. I really want to enhance the teardrop. So I've been, you know what I'm talking about, right? That one muscle group in your knee, the vastus medialis.
Oh, you're talking about like the outer quad?
Yeah. I think they call it the teardrop. Like it's like towards your. It's like towards your knee, and the Bulgarian split squats have been helping to develop that. And I just supplement that with some high volume leg raises, trying to bring that up a lot.
I think my outer quad is pretty good. I got that from mostly doing well, I learned it from like all the old school bodybuilders, like, you know, Vince Stranda, Tom Platz, Steve Reeves. Steve Reeves had a really nice teardrop, and that was due to like doing lots of front squats and hack squatting. But he did hack squats the old way, like with the barbell. You ever seen anybody do with the barbell before?
No, dude, I'm kind of curious. What is it? What does that look like?
It's kind of like, okay, so a lot of the old school guys back then, they would put a piece of 2x4 under their heels. That way they got a greater range of motion when it came to squatting. So the old way to do hack squats is to, you know, place the 2x4 under your heels, take a barbell behind your take an underhand grip with the barbell behind your back, and do a squat.
Oh, I see it.
I've never done it, but I heard it's pretty tough compared to the hack squat machines we have in our gyms nowadays.
Yeah, man, I bet. I saw this photo of Steve Reeves. I think back in the day, old school bodybuilders, they had such limited equipment. Like instead of the pec fly, they had this one ring type of thing where they would close, you know? You know what I'm talking about? Like they didn't have a pec deck machine. So they used a little cable type of thing that doesn't have any attachments.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. And another equipment they had was you know how the incline bench has like a little lower seat and then has the upper seat? It was just like one thing. And they were doing the incline standing up.
Yeah, I've seen that before. I feel like that must have some kind of a more benefit to doing standing. I don't know, but I mean, I'd like to try sometime, but that's pretty cool though, huh?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Speaking of incline, like another great exercise is that old school lifters use from what I researched. Let me know if this is true, but a lot of them did incline dumbbell curls. And I think that's a really underrated exercise. You can train it really heavy and get strong at it, and you can train it for a lot of volume. So it's really versatile. I think that's a great movement.
Yeah. A lot of the old school guys did a lot of incline curls. You got guys like Arnold, Steve Reeves. Steve Reeves loved the incline curls. Yeah.
I read about that.
Like every old school bodybuilding magazine I've ever read, it's always like they're either doing curls, concentration curls, or incline curls, or just like regular barbell curls. But mostly everybody kind of copied Steve Reeves because they're like, okay, Steve Reeves has the best body. What is he doing? So they always kind of copied what exercise he was doing. Like, oh, Steve Reeves is doing hack squats. He's doing incline dumbbell curls. He's doing incline press. So then everybody started copying Steve Reeves, and that's kind of like what you're gonna find a lot of in the old school magazines. Kind of like everybody doing the exercises he was doing.
Yeah, that totally makes sense, man. That totally makes sense. And a lot of people say that Steve Reeves was a natural, and I think he was, man. What do you think?
I think he was natural because I mean, there's a lot of guys to account for that said he was natural. You got guys like Frank Zane, Leroy Colbert, I forgot who else, but mostly those two guys. They said he was natural, and then like the guy only trained full body. Like I've done a lot of research on him, and I have never found any other program like other than full body. You know, full body is great for natural lifters, but I have his Mr. Universe routine, and that thing's super high in volume. He's doing like 9 sets for like chest, back, shoulders, biceps. Well, that may be a lot of volume, but that's just a competition routine. Something he followed for a couple weeks, before competition. But recently, one of my Instagram followers sent me his low volume routine, where it's actually just 1 to 3 sets of a muscle group.
I see. Yeah. And one other thing I noticed is that a lot of these guys that claim other people are natural, like I feel like if they were natural, once they're off cycle, they would lose their gains. And Steve Reeves' physique seems to be consistently good throughout his time, don't you think? Unless you know what I mean? Like usually when these enhanced guys, they stop taking things, their physique just kind of goes downhill. But his got better over the years, right? Even as he got really old.
Oh, definitely, yeah. The guy was pretty much the same size most of his career. The only time he lost a lot of mass was when he just stopped training. He took a layoff for a year, and then he came back and he gained like 20. He gained like 20 pounds. That's mostly just like muscle memory, water, and if anything, just some muscle too. But after that, when he got into when he started doing films, he had to lose some size. But I mean, if anything, like the guy looked the same his whole entire life. I mean, he never like he was never at one point like super big, and then like he got super small. It's always like it's always like at a maintenance to kind of like, oh, I'm building and never really cutting. He was always pretty much the same size all the years.
Yeah, it stayed consistent, right? It stayed consistent.
It was consistent. Yeah.
That's great, man. I feel like we pretty much covered it all for our viewers. You know, let's go ahead and summarize some of the things we talked about. You know, for upper chest, you know, so the 3 things that you really want to develop to build an old school physique is your upper chest, right? The upper chest, the shoulder to waist ratio, building those rear delts. You know, you don't want to have those lagging, like you said. From the side, you don't want to have the cardboard look.
Surfboard
like not cardboard. Cardboard. Yeah, and then you want to have fully developed calves. You don't want to be developing. You don't want to be underdeveloped there. And then you want the lats, right? And you can build that up with weighted chins, body weight chins, lat pull downs, and things like that. And then for legs, just squatting, right? Like legs are the easiest place to develop, at least for most people. I think you can build your legs up with just front squats, back squats, but at the same time, I feel like you shouldn't overdo it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can just build your legs off just front squats and back squats, but if you want to look, if you're going for aesthetic purposes, if anything, front squats, something like Vince Durano was a big advocate of cosmetic bodybuilding. There's a difference. There's bodybuilding and there's cosmetic bodybuilding. Cosmetic bodybuilding is mainly just for like looks. Like, okay, he may not be that strong, but he definitely looks good. So Vince Durano would recommend like front squats, leg curls for the hamstrings, hack squats, some stuff for the hip, inside hip abductors and the outside. And that was mainly it. He never really was a big fan of squats because he thought, okay, squats just make your ass big. And that's something I took into account, because when I was doing squats, I was like, okay, so my legs don't look my legs are big, but they're not that aesthetic. And on top of that, I got a big ass. I was like, okay, so I need to shape this up. So I started doing more front squats, more leg extensions, more leg curls, more hack squats. And that's what really got me that defined kind of like, oh, he's got that nice teardrop, but he's got really nice, chiseled legs. They're not too big and they got nice definition.
Yeah, they're more dense, right? It's not just like a bunch of like tree trunk type of legs, Yeah. And dude, I was in a similar place, because for me, my leg genetics, they're really top heavy. So you have like so it gets shorter as you come down, and I hated that, man.
Yeah.
So I just dropped the back squats for my program and just started solely doing Bulgarian split squats to just maintain the legs and just build up the VMO. Because I feel like legs is one of those muscle groups, since they are the biggest muscle groups in your body, they're really easy to overdevelop. And since like the barbell squat is such a big movement, it's so easy to build strength on, like you can easily overdo the legs.
Oh, yeah.
It's like one of the things we were talking about earlier in the podcast, like you take a guy from 150, you help him get to 180, but let's say 10 pounds of those muscle or 15 went to his legs, and his upper body is still lagging, but he is technically 180, but it's not, like you said, it's not cosmetic bodybuilding. It's not appearance first, the proportions are still off,
Yeah.
And by the way, this is for guys listening, this is for people who are interested in specifically appearance first. If you're a powerlifter, by all means, go ahead and do bench press, squat, and deadlift. But to be honest, the big 3 aren't even necessary to build an amazing physique. Now that I think about it, you don't even need to do the big 3, right? Because I
definitely agree. Like when it comes to like recommending my clients, if they're mainly just about, okay, I want to look good, I don't include bench pressing, I don't include squats, and I don't include deadlifts. So bench pressing, I learned from Vince Durano that, okay, don't do bench pressing. It hits mostly, it just gives you fat, like if anything, it just gives you fat pecs, and it hits mostly from deltoid. So eliminate it. So once I started to eliminate bench pressing from my program, I got really nice outer pecs, I got a nice upper chest, and then once I removed squats too, because Vince Durano said squats just give you what he called turn up legs. So that's why when you said top heavy, what I mean? top heavy. Yeah, kind of gives you that kind of like really meaty look, and that's not what he was a fan of. What he was a fan of. What he was a fan of like was chiseled legs with a nice outer quad teardrop. And that came from mostly just doing front squats, hack squats, leg extensions, and leg curls. And then you got the deadlift, which he never really talked about in his book, but he just mainly recommended like from the old school bodybuilding looks. From the old school bodybuilding looks I've read, they've never really included deadlift, and I think because I don't know, they just didn't feel like it got them that great results. But if anything, they did hyper extensions and they did Romanian deadlifts for their lower back.
Exactly, man. I 100% agree with you, man. Just talking it through with you making a lot more sense, because I feel like a lot of people when they first start lifting, they get so carried away. You know, you got to squat, bench, deadlift, and things like that. But for people who are interested in purely aesthetics, I don't think that's necessary, because first of all, like you said, you don't even need the flat bench, right? Or if they really want to build up their tricep, I guess they can do closed grip bench. But
yeah,
the wide grip is highly unnecessary, man. They can build a great chest with just incline and weighted dips, and then for back, they can just use weighted pull ups and pull downs and they can build a great back. So that's limited too. And like you said, you don't want the bottom heavy. I mean, you don't want the top heavy legs. So the squats are eliminated too. And if you like, what's really inspiring to me is like those Greek statues that they have, you know, like if you look at their proportions, like they all have the shoulder to waist ratio. They don't have the bottom heavy legs, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like old school lifters were like the perfect example of like a Greek god statue, you know, if you ever look at those. It's so like everything looks put together, you know, you got the leanness, you got the V-shaper, and everything's well put together. So yeah, guys, I think we covered it all, man. What do you think? Is there anything else you wanna throw in for the viewers, or you think we covered it all?
Yeah, calf training too, because I think there's a every time I do a video on like calves, or I do like an Instagram post on calves, people always respond to that the most. They leave the most comments. They save it gets the most views, and they always save those posts. So when it comes to calf training, there's only really two exercises you really need to, if anything, just one exercise you really need to focus on if you want to build like nice good calves is just the standing calf raise. It hits the gastrocnemius, the thickest part of the calf, and that's all you really need to do. If you're gonna go for another one, you can do the seated calf raises for the soleus. If you want to go even further, you can do the leg press, and that's pretty much it. Where if you want to build good calves, if you can just do 3 sets, but if you have like some small calves and they're stubborn, because the calves are the most stubborn muscle in the body, you can do 6 to 8 sets. I've experienced the most maintainable amount of volume I was able to do for like the longest time was doing 6 sets of 20. There was one time where I did 8 sets of 20, and that got me like really good results. But I kind of got sick of just doing 8 sets, so I was like, okay, let me dumb down the volume. And I did 6 sets, and there's actually a couple of things I learned from Vince Gironna's book on calves. There was the okay, so you want to work the gastrocnemius, which is the thickest part of the calf. The standing calf raises, the seated calf raises for the soleus, and if you want to work Vince Gironna called the peak of the calves to get that diamond shape. See, that's where science comes into play, and it's like, okay, there's no such thing as getting that diamond shaped calf, because it's either you're born with it or you're not. Because you got guys like Steve Reeves who was born with that diamond shaped calf, and you got some other people who just don't have it. But Vince Gironna thought that doing the leg press was good for the peak of the calves. And also there's the other variation for the what he called the lower part of the calf, which was doing the calf raises on the hack squat. So instead of doing the hack squat front, you kind of turn it around and you do calf raises that way. Like it's kind of like a standing calf raise.
I see. That makes sense, man. I've never seen someone do that before, do the calves like that. And I agree with you, man. Like a lot of the calves genetics are purely genetics. I mean, yeah, like a lot of people, like I know a lot of tennis players that have like a really nice calves, and I don't think they've ever trained to go to the gym and do 8 sets of calves. That they just naturally have really like tennis ball type of calves. You know, it looks like if you look at their leg, the back of their leg, it looks straight, and then there's like a big like tennis ball type of
Yeah,
calves.
that also reminds me of like if you ever look at ballerinas, they always have like big calves, and the reason being is because they're always on their toes. And I've read a couple of things on old school calf training, and you got guys like Steve Reeves, you got guys like Steve Reeves who talk about, okay, so if you want to build really good calves, you're gonna you want to make sure you're always like you want to go as high as you can on your toes and get a really nice stretch. And that makes a lot of sense because you got girls, the ballerinas who got big calves and they don't even really do calf like weighted calf training. They're just always on their toes. That's just how they get big calves. And that's what that was like. That was like a big epiphany when it came to calf training. I was like, dude, like it's so trippy because I forgot where I even learned that from. But I mean, it was just so trippy. I was like, damn, these girls got big calves, and I was like, how do they do it? And it's just because they're always in their toes, and that's kind of like the secret. Where I think I learned it from Larry Scott that, or I forgot who it was, but they talked about, okay, you want to go as high as you can, and that's just kind of what's going to help you contract your calves a lot better.
Yeah, man, that makes sense. And they actually have a concept called nucleus overload. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's essentially like the concept is you're gonna hit a muscle group every single day, and that's how you would grow a muscle group. And I don't know, and there's a lot of people that posted on YouTube. Like there's this YouTube guy who squatted every day for 30 days straight, and at the end of it, he said he had to get new jeans.
Oh shit.
Yeah, he had to get new jeans, and we know the concept of frequency and volume. These things really work, you know. Like I feel like people who are listening right now, if they have really, if you guys take what Daniel just said about ballerinas and how they have amazing calves, like you guys can incorporate that into your own training. You know, if you have any stubborn muscle group, just hit that with more frequency and volume, and I feel like a lot of the people listening, they can see great results. Like if your arms are lagging, hit it a couple more times than you usually are, double down on volume or increase the intensity. And I feel like a lot of people can see great results that way. What do you think, Daniel?
Yeah, more frequency would be good. Something I learned from, well, if at one point I had really small calves and I was like, okay, I wanna have that old school look, but I want to know how they did it. So I started researching. And I was like, okay, so excuse me, how did Arnold do it? So Arnold did it with he trained calves every day for like maybe a year or two, and that's how he got big calves. But it was mostly just doing like, well, when he trained, I think Arnold's biggest epiphany when it came to calf training was when he trained with Reg Park at his house. He was at his house, and Reg Park woke him up at it was like 6 a.m, and they were having breakfast. Arnold was like, whoa, what's going on? And Reg Park was like, okay, we're gonna train. And Arnold was like, okay, let's do it. So they had their really sugary protein shake, and then they started off their workout with calves. So what really amazed Arnold was that Reg Park was doing calf raises with like 1,000 pounds, and Arnold was like, dude, that's insane. He's like, I only do them with like 500 pounds. So Reg Park encouraged him to do it with heavier weight. Well, I think that's also a good idea when it comes to calf training. Sometimes you kind of want to go a little bit heavier, like like 6 reps and nothing really below that, because I think that'd be kind of dangerous. You could like ruin your like your Achilles heel.
Yeah.
But yeah, something I also learned from Frank Zane was that you can hit calves for 2 weeks straight every day, and after that, he says that they won't get bigger; they'll just become more defined instead of getting bigger.
That makes sense, man. Like, what do you think of using reverse pyramid training for calves? So what do you think? Like start out with a heavy set in like the 6 to 8 rep range, drop it 10%, go to 8 to 10. So that way you're training him heavy and you're hitting him with sufficient volume. Have you tried that before?
I've done that before. That didn't work out too well. That didn't work out too well for me. And so the routine that ever worked for me was doing 8 sets of 20 standing calf raises, and that was it. Just using really good form, always increasing weight. And also just recently when I hired Tyler as my coach, he gave me a calf program that worked pretty good. It was something I did 4 times a week, and it was just leg press calf raises, and it was standing calf raises on the Smith machine. So it was like a cycle of like, okay, you're doing 6 reps one day, 8 reps, 15 reps, and then 20, and was actually 20 to 30. So you would do that on both exercises. And after the Smith machine, after you do that exercise, because you would start off with the leg press calf machine, do like 6 reps, and then you would do the Smith machine after that, do 8 sets. Sorry, it was all like 4 sets, so it was like 8 sets in total. So you do 4 sets of the leg press of like 6 reps, and then you do the standing calf raise in the Smith machine, do 4 sets of 8 reps. And after that set of the after each set of the Smith machine calf raises, you would superset it with the just like bouncing calf raises, just burning that calf out. And that's what actually got me like even better results in the 8 sets of 20 standing calf raises. Kind of like switching it the reps and the bouncing calf raises to failure.
That's interesting, man. I'm definitely gonna incorporate that. You said 8 sets of 20?
No, the 8 sets of 20 was pretty good, but I think
I see.
What got me even better results than I just realized was the cycle he gave me, which was the calf raises on the leg press. It was 4 sets of like 6. It was like a 4-day routine, so every kind of day was like different. And then it was doing the standing calf raises on the Smith machine, superset it with bouncing calf raises to failure.
Oh, got it, man. I'm gonna try that. I'll let you know how it is, man. I'm gonna try that out.
For sure.
That sounds perfect, man. I definitely gotta bring up the calves a tad bit more so they can catch up to my upper thigh.
I feel you, man. I think my calves are starting to lag a little bit, but I'm kind of like getting back into like the calf training and the intensity of it.
Yeah. All right, awesome, man. Is there anything else you want to give the viewers? Any other old school tips, or you think we covered it all? What do you think?
The proportions. I think I'll just cover that a little bit. The proportions. You always want to make sure that you have some calves that are like somewhat bigger than your quads. That way, they kind of create that one line, that kind of like symmetrical look. And
can you actually make your calves bigger than your quads?
No, not really. But I mean, like you got guys like Frank Zane who actually, it's all the illusion. You got guys like Frank Zane who actually kind of like, okay, well, I mean, if you look at Arnold, if you just Google a picture of Arnold, you see him like just relaxed standing. You'll see that his calves are really, if anything, like almost a little bit bigger than his quads. But I think that's just kind of like he didn't really prioritize his quad training. If anything, he just kind of cared more about calves. But I think making sure that your calves are in proportion with your quads is important. And on top of that, the second thing you want to focus on is the making sure that your chest and back are proportional with your arms, because you don't want to have like these like this really big chest, and back. Because there's a guy. Have you ever heard of Mike Katz?
I've never heard of him. No.
If you ever seen Pumping Iron, you got that guy whose name's Mike Katz, and the reason he never won, like this is the interesting part. The reason he never won like a Mr. Universe contest was because his proportions were always off. He had the common issues that I've seen in a lot of people. His quads. If you see in the movie, Ken Waller even describes all his flaws. He's like, okay, Kenny's biggest issues is that his quads are too big to match his calves, and his back and chest are too big to match his arms. So that was his problem. He had the small calves, and on top of that, he had arms that weren't big enough to match his chest and back. So that's kind of the stuff you want to like focus on when it comes to getting the proportions right. You want to make sure that your arms are like big and your shoulders aren't like super like heavy. You don't want like everybody wants those boulder shoulders, but if you really want that old school appearance, that classic physique appearance, you want to make sure that you got those nice big triceps and nice big biceps, and some like medium sized shoulders, and those those wide lats, and that nice chest.
Perfect, man. That pretty much sums it up right there.
Yeah, I think that's
covered it all, man.
I think we did cover it all. Yeah, we're pretty good right now. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. It's really nice having you on the podcast, man. I hope you guys incorporate some of the things that, even if you incorporate 80% of what Daniel said, you'll see some amazing results. I mean, like there's a lot of misinformation out there due to people who are enhanced, and there's not a lot of advice out there for people who are natural like us and who want to build like a really old school physique that resembles a Greek god. And I hope you guys incorporate some of these tips to build the physique of your dreams. I'm Andy Dita. I'm here with Daniel. And I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day. And I'll see you guys in the next podcast.